Hi, I'm Felix Hartmann, the managing partner of Hartmann Capital. Hartmann Capital is a frontier tech investment firm, so we first started with a crypto asset hedge fund, and now we focus on the metaverse, where we run a metaverse VC focusing on the infrastructure, the content, the access points of the metaverse, truly, the things that will create that Ready Player One vision to reality. We've seen, a number of our portfolio companies do really well in the past year. From, DressX, who was presenting here as well, building, the next generation of digital fashion and really, leading the market in that front. We've backed Red Pill VR, where they're building VR music experience essentially, where you can attend a concert in virtual reality, fully immersive. So that's something most people have any experience that's going to come in the next 2 or 3 years. And we've also backed a lot of Web3 game development studios, like Cathedral Studios, that are, really reimagining how gaming is done. Buzzwords that are hot, hard to miss AI right now, but I would say for the young person, just experiment, be hungry, try things out, and try things out until you find an idea that really sticks with you. Because ultimately, a startup is a long process. You might think there's a quick opportunity to raise money for an AI startup, but you're going to be working on this probably for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. So make sure it's something that means a lot to you, that you really think is disruptive, that matters. So until you find that kind of thing, I would say experiment and just build things. So I think a common error, which kind of goes along with what we touched on, is just following a hype, just following a trend, where you might say, in 2021, a lot of people said, let me build the next open world. And then all of a sudden, in my first month of running the Metaverse fund, I got pitched not one, but 10 different open worlds in a single month. And those things get saturated really quickly. Now, on the flip side, now with AI, within a single week, pretty much, you start seeing dozens and dozens of very similar looking AI startups pop up, where then you must question, look, am I just pursuing this because there's currently hype in it? And if the hype dies, will I still work on it? Because we saw this a lot with Web3 in the metaverse, where people started startups in Web3, in DeFi, in metaverse, and so forth. And then the moment the hype is over, they can't raise money anymore. They can't motivate a team anymore. They don't actually have an idea. They really just surfed along the waves of the hype cycle. And so I think it's really important that if you do raise within a hype cycle, that you still find something meaningful, where you say, look, even when the tide shift and things are no longer as hot, I'm going to stay the path, and I have something that is not just temporarily lucrative, but rather is a long-term opportunity that is here to stay. And I think those founders, because as I showed in my presentation, these cycles, they kind of reappear on a 4-year basis or so. Crypto has a 4-year cycle. VR has had a 4-year cycle. So if you can, raise in a hard time, but then stay around in the tough times, you really establish yourself as a leading founder, leading player in that segment, because you were there in good times and bad times. I think vaporware and fake it till make it is actually really, really toxic, and it's a big red flag. Because if you look at a founder and I see, look, he's raised 2 times for different startups before, and every time the tide shifts, he jumps on the next thing, I would never give the money. And there's been actually countless founders that I've passed on, sometimes very quickly, because I realize they're just trend hoppers, essentially, right? And so your reputation matters a lot, I think, in the venture capital space, especially as a founder. So on one hand, of course, be willing to experiment and explore and change your mind and pivot, yes. But at the same time, you do have to be a little bit steadfast and have to push through, that you actually stick around when times get tough. Because if you're the kind of guy that people get to know as, hey, whatever the hype is, this quarter it's cannabis, next quarter it's crypto, the next quarter it's Shopify, next quarter it's metaverse. You get really quickly marked in people's minds as that. And so, email us, research at hartmanncapital.com. Even better, is do some research on us. Maybe one of the teams we back. Maybe some of the founders we know. Maybe some of the VCs we co-invest with. And if you can get a warm introduction, much higher chances. But of course, we do check all our emails. But of course, just know that will get a shorter look than a warm intro would.